we go live here and that we start talking about ancient morality and ma'at and the idea of ma'at. So I wanted to talk about this and go over this and talk a little bit about this today. So I apologize for the little bit delay, but we're gonna jump right into this comment and this conversation around ma'at and morality. So I wanted to thank you for joining. I very much appreciate it. And I want to say for those who are members either on Facebook or YouTube, I'm going to be doing another live session after this, and I'm going to be talking about almost who's the son of Albana and his historical autobiography and his tomb and why we know so much about how ancient Kemet kicked out the Hyksos and what they did with respect to Kush. So his autobiography is a significant autobiography. It's one of the more important historical documents, in my opinion, in ancient Kemet because it gives us so much information in terms of a first-hand account. So I'll be talking about that after this with those who are members, either on Facebook or YouTube. I'll be doing a YouTube live for members right after this. And it's just $4.99 a month if you'd like to join our membership. But I wanted to jump in and thank you so much for bearing with me. Those who were bearing with me, I very much appreciate that. God bless you. Thank you so much for joining as I was starting this a little bit ago, but jumping into this now. So talking about the idea of ma'at and morality, and I'll be interested to hear what you think because I think about in general, there are a lot of times we have a lot of people who are very critical of the ancient Kemetic people. There are a lot of people who are critical of their spirituality, critical of the way they worship God, the ways in which they worship, critical of things they said. But that being said, a lot of people today don't have a moral code that they themselves follow. Really, a lot of times, people will look at religion and what they serve and not necessarily equate that to how you treat other people. And when you think about the laws of Ma'at and you think about morality, there was clear in ancient Kemetic literature. So you can read the literature, the teachings of Ptahhotep, the teachings of Kajemni, Amenemhotep, the instructions of Amenemhat to his son. You can read so many different ideas. The autobiography of Winnie, the autobiography of Harkuf. You will find these things that they're not just talking about the 42 negative confessions or declarations of innocence, if you will, that you can find in the book of Coming Forth by Day, but they're also talking about how they treated their mother, how they treated their siblings, how they treated their father, how they did their business, certain things that they were doing in their lives that made them live truth. And Ma'at wasn't just the idea of facts versus fiction or something like that. It was the idea of actually living and exuding truth and actually balance where you do something for yourself and you do something else. When you help yourself, you're also helping other people. You're helping your community. That's kind of what God is able to do. Two things at one time, if you will. So this whole idea around morality and Ma'at is a significant theme that comes across in the ancient Kemetic literature and in their spirituality. It comes across loud and clear. And I'll share this right here. I wanted to share one of the declarations of innocence, if you will, from the book of Coming Forth by Day, but that people call the Book of the Dead. But one of the things they mentioned is I've not taken the things that belong to God. They said things like, I've not cheated on the scales. I've not cheated in business or tipped the scales, or I've not, committed adultery. I've not made anyone to feel fear. I have not, been deceitful. I've not stolen the things that belong to God. All these types of things are things that ancient Kemetic people said, not just in the book of Coming Forth by Day. They said it in their autobiographies. They said it in their literature, in their teaching literature. As a matter of fact, when you look at schools and how people learn to write and the people who were writing, like the scribes and things of that nature, a lot of times when they were writing, especially in the Middle Kingdom, New Kingdom, even in the Old Kingdom, they were practicing learning how to write with religious texts. Think about that. Imagine if you learned how to write based on precepts that were based on morality. So instead of just ABC or whatever it might be, you learned your alphabet, your hieroglyphics based off of writing things that were based in morality, based on how you treated God, based on how you treated other people. And so this to me seems to be a significant thing. As we jump into it and we start to talk about it, it seems to be something that is a significant thing that is important, because to me, spirituality, without the idea of morality, without the idea of how do you treat one another, is a difficult thing to even talk about, or a difficult thing to say is real. What does it matter if you say that you love God, if you say that you are committed to something, but you're not necessarily willing to treat somebody the same way you want to be treated? I mean, Jesus tells that, the Bible tells us, love God before anything else and treat your neighbor as yourself. And that the laws of Ma'at, when you think about not being deceitful, not making someone feel fear, not being intimidated, not cheating someone in business when you're doing trade, not taking the things that belong to God, not lying to someone, not murdering someone. These are all very, very specific rules and declarations one would be able to say, you would be able to say based on how you treated other people. Based on how you treated other people. And I think so many times, I think about all the major stars we have today, and you know them, I don't even have to name names. You know all the major stars that we have in Hollywood and entertainment who people look up to, but whose behavior in terms of how they treat other people is immoral. It's reprehensible. I mean, our children are looking up to people who literally treat other people like dogs, or treat other people like slime, and don't look at people the same way they look at themselves. And I think that it's very hard to raise as a nation, to raise yourself as a person, if you're not looking at the idea of morality. We talk so much about what the ancient Kemetic people did. Look at this amazing monument of an African, a black African king. And look at what it represents. It represents God. It represents Ma'at. It represents truth. It represents morality. It's where he's looking out into the future, if you will. He's gazing into the future and across space and time, if you will, in a way that says, I represent something that's holy. My soul is representing that of Ra. When you say Kafre, his soul is representing God. His soul is manifesting God. This is what they were talking about, guys. I mean, we talk about ancient Kemet like this is not this is what they were talking about. Everything they did. If you read any important, significant piece of literature, anything from the Old Kingdom, any monument, any tomb, any temple that you're going to read, they're talking about this. This is overwhelmingly what they're talking about. We talk a lot about their monuments. We talk a lot about different things about them, ethnicity, whatever it may be, but we don't really give a lot to why they did it, or even how they did it. That idea that you can be and do anything you want is connected with God, is connected with a divine look at yourself, a better view of yourself. Our children are in a situation where they can't see themselves able to do something because they don't see themselves as God. They see themselves as limitless, as limited. They see themselves as only going as high as the person next to them. And we talk about why is it so significant for somebody to learn your history. So think about that. If we asked ourselves a question, why is it significant to learn your history? Why should someone learn your history? Why should that be something that people do? The reason why history, we recognize history is significant because we understand that we need to be able to see, and our children need to be able to see themselves in history, themselves reflected doing things, mathematics, wonderful monuments, all kinds of amazing things that our children need to be able to see. And we say, okay, this is why history is important. This is why you must do that. And we look at it, this is like the number one civilization that we talk about. And when we look at them, it's not just to know that they did it and that they looked like you and they look like us. It's also to know how they did it and why they did it. Their motivation behind all of it was spiritual. And the how is when you start to believe in yourself, when you start to see yourself as more than just something that's limited, more than just something as what you see on TV. Because if we're waiting for television, if we're waiting for the schools to give us that idea and that concept of ourselves, that we are divine, that we are more than just what we see, that we are God-like, right? Our souls reflecting God, like Kafre. If we're waiting for television to give it to it, it's not coming. If we're waiting to see that in the eyes of an entertainer, it's probably not going to come. You're going to see people who are immoral, who do immoral things, and your children look up to them. And so the idea of just talking about it, it becomes significant because Ma'at is a fundamental part of ancient Kemetic spirituality, and it's a fundamental part of ancient Kemetic history. You know what I mean? We like to look at their history just from the standpoint of just facts and observations and monuments and these big, huge, amazing, incredible things that they did, but not even begin to look at why they did it. And so, and how, and what was their motivation? Anybody who's doing something is driven by something. Something is driving you to do that. And when you have a drive and an engagement to want to do something, you can accomplish anything you want. You can accomplish amazing things. And their drive was spiritual. Their drive was pleasing God. Their drive was manifesting their divinity. Their drive was spiritual. So, I want to talk more about it. And I'd be interested in what you talk about and what you think about it, because the idea of just listing their facts and not understanding why and how they do it is not really useful to us. If we can figure out how they did it, if we can somehow mimic that, and we don't have to do everything that everybody did in the past, but if we can take and learn from our ancestors, I don't care if it's Harriet Tubman or Khalif Ray or Hatshepsut or whoever it may be, I don't care who it is, Sojourner Truth, whoever it may be, if we can take lessons from their lives and apply it to us, we will be so much better. We have all of history. All of history is a book. All we have to do is open up and read. And so I want to talk more about it. You can put your comments down below, the idea around morality and how important that is and where Ma'at fits in to our lives today. But that whole idea of looking at history as if it's a book, let's read it, let's learn from the lives of our ancestors. And we're going to be talking a lot more about this. And I'm going to be putting out another video very shortly for those who are members on YouTube, as I mentioned, and members on Facebook, talking about Amos, the son of Albana, who was a person who was a soldier right at the start of the New Kingdom, somebody who offers some historical evidence. And when you think about that, these people are talking about how they did their job well, how they did things in history to please either king, to please God, to be significant to their parents, their mothers. Because Amos, the son of Albana, he's talking about his mother. His mother was Albana, if you've ever read about him or read his story. But I just want to throw that out there. So we'll be talking more about this morality and ma'at and why is it significant. So thank you so much for listening and watching.